morning, everyone. Extending our warmest welcome to the honorable guests, Vice Chancellor Sir, faculties and students to a special lecture on security challenges to a rising India organized by Center for South Asian Studies and School of Social Sciences and International Studies, Pondicherry University. We are grateful to have the presence of the speaker of the event, Lieutenant General Rajan Ravindran, AVSM VSM, former General Officer in Chief, Delhi Area and Commandant, Officers Training Academy, Chennai, Professor Gurmeet Singh, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Pondicherry University, Professor K.K. Mohanty, Dean of School of Social Sciences and International Studies, Pondicherry University, Professor Subramaniam Raju, Dean, International Relations and Coordinator at the UGC Center of Maritime Studies. I welcome you all to the program. In a world where nations are constantly evolving, India's ascent on the global stage is nothing short of remarkable. India's trajectory as a rising power is characterized by an extraordinary blend of tradition and modernity. From the ancient philosophies that have withstood the test of time to the cutting-edge technologies propelling the nation forward, India stands as a living example of harmonizing the old with the new. In the global theater, India's voice resonates not just for its economic prowess, but also as a responsible player committed to addressing global challenges. Whether it's the fight against the pandemic, the pursuit of sustainable development, or contributing to peacekeeping efforts, India is carving a niche as a responsible and proactive global citizen. With its holistic growth in every field, India continues to amaze the world. And it is at this juncture that such a lecture in the topic holds relevance. I'm sure all of us are eagerly waiting to delve deep into the discussion. Before that, let me take a moment to invite Professor Subramaniam Raju sir to give the welcome address.
Good morning to everyone. Honorable Vice Chancellor of Pondicherry University, Professor Gurmeet Singh, General Rajan Ravindran, AVSM, VSM, retired, as well as adjunct faculty of Pondicherry University, Professor B.B. Mohanty, Dean, School of Social Sciences and International Relations, faculty members, research scholars and students. I invite you all to a special talk on security challenges to a rising India by General Rajan Ravindran. Let me place on record our gratitude to our Honorable Vice Chancellor to make the right person to speak on the right topic, which is very, very important at this juncture to know how the challenges faced by India. On the other hand, how India is rising as a major power or economically major one of the fifth economies in the world. When we talk about challenges, every challenge is an opportunity for growth, because challenge should not be taken or should not be seen in the negative sense. And how to transform challenges to opportunities. That is what exactly either at the personal level, at the state level. And when Soviet Union was disintegrated, which was earlier used to be largely depending on USSR, because USSR was the permanent Security Council member. But then when Soviet Union was disintegrated, India was so disturbed because it had to reorient its foreign policy. When I'm talking about that, I also put something, being closer to China, we have advantages. As a student of international relations, I see it. There are problems, there are challenges being faced by India, being associated, being a neighbor to some of the countries, including China, where we witnessed war in 1962. If China was not neighbor to India, perhaps India could have not become nuclear power. Maybe there is a different discourse to talk whether it is good or not, because we are advocating for disarmament, but then suddenly we ended up with nuclear power status. So if China was not there, perhaps India could have not initiated, could have not thought of being a nuclear power. And also India could have not looked at its neighborhood in an effective way in terms of its foreign policy. And particularly during Cold War, India neglected Southeast Asian countries where they were looking for support from India, but did not happen for a variety of reasons. But then now we are looking at, just because of China spreading in different parts of the world, through initiatives like investment or some other things through BRI, India is also now looking at how to spread its influence in different parts of the world, particularly in the Indo-Pacific or Indian Ocean. And also particularly Myanmar, when we are talking about earlier, we used to ignore Myanmar But then now we are looking at how Myanmar is so important for us. So is the case with Indo-Pacific or Indian Ocean, where we are looking at because of China. So China is also making India in another way. When you look at, there are challenges, I'm not ignoring that aspects, but then it is also one way of looking at positive sense if you look at how China is also indirectly helping India to grow. And India is seen as a legitimate power across the globe, and the globe is looking at India. That's what we look at. Earlier we used to look at others, but then now the globe is looking at India now. There now is a time for us to think how the world views India. What is the perception of the world towards India? And this is a time for us to think how, because earlier European used to tell us what we should do, but now they are looking at us what they should do. This is the time where we need to look at the challenges really made us when shifting from Soviet Union disintegration, and now we are talking about, despite being developing country, despite being not being a permanent Security Council member, still we are in a position to be seen as a legitimate power in the world. What else? What is that message we have? Because the challenges we are able to face, we are able to address. And today is a day we have to celebrate, because in Delhi, the Prime Minister is now initiating the second summit on Global South. And you look at the crisis where we have the Palestinian and Israel crisis, where you are talking about, and government is now initiating the second summit. And in January, we also had one summit where we also witnessed a war between Ukraine and Russia. And this is the way we are looking at the challenge as a real testimony for our growth. That's what we tell in the class, that students should not look for comfortable zone. The way you look at comfortable zone, your growth is not going to be possible. This is precisely what happened to India's foreign policy, the security challenges, the different challenges which were encountered and faced by India over a period of time, that really made us to think and made others to think what we are. And that is what we look at about that. And also, we are here advocating rules-based order, because this is what we look at in our principles. We are strong in terms of not violating rules. We are abide by international rules. We are abide by the concept of sovereign nation state. And thereby we are talking about, we are also advocating freedom of navigation, because we never violated. And we are very strong in the maritime domain. Though we have continental front, we have a problem with some of the neighboring countries, but then on maritime front, if you look at, India was seen as a legitimate power, and India was seen as a security provider. And that, in that context, when you look at how that could be really important for us to look into, and also very happy to say that Indian government is also now initiating and a center for Global South in Delhi, and is also going to be connected to all different universities, and with the encouragement and with the support of Honorable Vice Chancellor, we also did on G20 University Connect, and our Vice Chancellor was instrumental in making this G20 University Connect more successful. And also we are now getting, under the leadership of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, we are going to connect again to have more academic activities in terms of they're looking for universities. And this is the first time the present government is looking for the people-centric kind of approach. And this is what we are looking at, how these research scholars can think about that research on world's perception of India, or looking at how we are going to take a different kind of themes or topics in which we can also involve to make this research into policy making. I think that is something very important for us to look into, and also great contribution, as also our Honorable Vice Chancellor said earlier also, is a great contribution of G20 India presidency, where India was able to make African Union as a member of G20. 55 countries are now coming to be part of G20, G20 plus one, whatever that name they're going to come. So this is what we are looking at, the contribution of India. Despite being facing challenges, India is demonstrating the kind of oneness. And we are talking about oneness, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. We are talking about one earth, one family, one future. And we have demonstrated, either in terms of taking the steps to emissions of greenhouse gases emissions, how we are going to reduce. There is one study says if India is going to reduce emissions of GHGs to 20 to 25%, then the probability of India's scenario is going to be, according to one study, subject to correction, 25% of poverty will be increased and 4% of GDP come down. If that is there, still we are committed to mitigating GHG emissions. So I think this is the time for us to look at how, and it's very important, and our guest of honor is going to discuss about the various challenges when we are talking about rising power India. I think probably our guest of honor may also look into the other side of the challenges, how we are being benefited, and also we look at, I'm not here giving a rosy picture that India doesn't have any problems. We have problems, poverty, we have illiteracy, we have violence, we have so many problems. I'm not here to say, but then which state doesn't have problem? So this is something where we have, because we are trying to look at accommodating the voices of different sections. So this is somewhere we need to look at how that could, despite all these problems, we are trying to work together, go together, and grow together. So this is what I look at that. So I stop here and I welcome you again, once again, to this very important talk to be delivered by the General. So thank you, and also thanks for, despite the busy schedule, our Honorable Vice Chancellor is supposed to be in a selection meeting, but then somehow, because made it possible to be with us today, and that shows the support and the encouragement extended to us to organize academic activities in the Center for South Asian Studies. Thank you so much.
Good morning, friends. I know we are starting a little late, and whatever role I had to play, Professor Raju has already done that in fair bit of details. But I'll make two quick points here for everybody's benefit here. Well, India is not what it used to be in 47, and when you read down the line, you would have seen the number of ups and downs that we had seen in terms of picking up issues regarding to our 5 years plans, where we had given different emphasis in different plans. But then rightly, as Mr. Raju has already pointed out, we should be grateful to China that they are our neighbors. Like the way I put it, others don't, that we should be grateful to Parsi community that they chose to be in India. Otherwise they could have been very conveniently settling down in France. But Tatas came here, Godrej came here, many other Parsi groups were here, and how dedicated they are. They are a great lover of our country. And since they are here, the industrial progress could be there. Well, to cut short, if I get time, I'll dwell more on this. Since China was here, we woke up and we have made the progress that we all see. The progress of a kind that the whole world now looks at us, looks at India. Everybody looks at India that, well, the way they have progressed in terms of various sectors, defense, industry, electronics, wherever, it's an example for everyone, despite all odds. And the way we have progressed in the area of defense, that also is worth noting. Our policy in good old days was nobody would talk about it. We'll either align here or there and we'll say we are a member of non-aligned mission. But subsequently now, in the last 3-4 years in particular, every country looks at India's foreign policy. They say this is the one. And we have given a new look to the foreign policy, that real foreign policy is which is in your interest. And our external affairs ministers have repeatedly said that. This is what has now come to the level that every country is thinking on these lines. And the entire UNO is reorganizing in terms of what we have to put these conflicting zones on a discussion table. There are challenges, there are problems, and one should not think that India is sitting in a very comfortable zone. Please remember, we have China on one side, which everybody says we are grateful for a different reason. We have Pakistan on the other side, a very hostile neighbor. We have Bangladesh, we have Sri Lanka, we have Afghanistan, we have other neighbors where things are not very convenient for us, let me tell you. We are charting our route very carefully, and thanks to our foreign policy makers and thinkers and our defense establishments, defense officers. They are doing a great job for our country, and rightly in the same line, this address, which is going to be given by Lieutenant General Rajan Rajendran, regarding security challenges to a rising future, rising country like ours, is a topic which everybody should think about it. And I am of the view that after listening to Lieutenant General Rajan, if 1% of yours can pick up the right thread and move into this sector of foreign service or defense or for policy making, I think we would have fulfilled the purpose of this talk. Such talks are very important. When a person like a Lieutenant General rank officer giving it, you can always view it as an exercise which has been a very thoughtful exercise, which is going to be delivered after a deep, considerably good amount of work into this area. And I have always been maintaining, all through, wherever I get a chance, when you come across a person of the rank of Lieutenant General, you can always be assured that this person has not come through a very easy way. When 100 officers will join, there is no guarantee that one out of these would become Lieutenant General. Some course will go without this. So to become a Lieutenant General in defense or equivalence is a great honor, and a person who adorns this rank is the one who has remarkable experience in the areas of defense establishment and security challenges. So when I met Lieutenant General Rajendran, we discussed, and I immediately said, why don't you join us as an adjunct professor, as a faculty here? And he agreed, and we also felt very honored. So he is one of us now. He is a professor here with us, and in subsequent months, you will have more of his talks. I know today there has been too many events in the university which have coincided this, but then in the days to come, you will have more of his talks on security-related issues, and you will get ample opportunities to interact with him one-to-one also. So I'm honored to have you here, and I'm sure our students who are particularly from the international relations would be benefiting a great deal out of your talk. As I said, this is not the end of it. There will be occasions when they will be all, during certain events, will be interacting with you one-to-one. And our subject of international relations, our subject of security concerns shall grow in the right direction. And Pondicherry University in particular in the months to come shall be able to contribute richly to this area. We have been organizing seminars, we have been organizing workshops, and our papers which we have been sending to External Affairs Ministry, and some through ICWA, where I am also a member, are taken very seriously, and they have taken a serious note, and they write to us also appreciating our efforts. So I am sure this is going to be another step in that direction. So I wish the event a grand success, and wish all of you, young minds, vibrant minds, a happy interaction with General Rajendran, and it will go a long way, I am sure, in your career. Thank you so very much.
So, good morning everybody. Respected Lieutenant General Ravindran, Professor Subramaniam Raju, Madam Ravindran, Dr. Humayun, Professor Purushottam, probably he was here, so Dr. George, Dr. Matthew, research scholars and students, friends. First of all, I join our esteemed Vice Chancellor and Professor Raju, welcoming the resource person, the Lieutenant General Ravindran, to this lecture program. And also I welcome all the students and the participants who are present here. Much has already been said. I don't have to add anything because Professor Raju gave a very good background note about these security challenges, and also our VC also he made some additions. I just want to add that it is true that all the countries across the globe, they look to India as a kind of emerging power, and the more importantly that the competing powers, superpowers, they are actually trying to be closer to India. Now they are competing with each other how to become more closer to India. This is a kind of great achievement in the last couple of years. We have been witnessing that India has marched ahead very in an unprecedented kind of scale and speed in the front of economy, military, and diplomacy, international diplomacy, and even all the major social and political indicators also. So it's a kind of great achievement, and all these achievements, as it is told, that against all the odds and security challenges, and this has been there actually. These challenges are actually there since independence. So we know that how to grow with the challenges. We have learned how to grow with the challenges. Without challenges also we may not have grown this much also. That is what actually what Professor Raju said. I agree with him. This is a kind of fact. But thing is that actually these challenges are actually not actually very static. They are dynamic, and these security challenges, what it was there, every now and then it is changing. And understanding these challenges actually requires actually serious kind of attempt, and volumes have been written on these challenges. You can find a kind of a good amount of literature, research articles, books, and very kind of meaningful discourses and debates are there. But they need to be actually revisited. They need to be actually relocated in the context of this changing situation. And we know that our external security and internal security, we have challenges. As it was pointed out that we have disturbed neighbors like China and Pakistan, who on the one hand they are actually China is challenging our kind of territorial sovereignty, whereas Pakistan is also doing that. And in addition to that, the cross-border terrorism, that is also a big challenge. And also the counterfeit kind of currencies, many other kind of problems also they are posing from that side. Besides that also we have far more challenging internal problems. We have terrorism and we have problems of separatism, and also we have many problems, because such a vast and diverse country, we cannot have a kind of time without any problems. So challenging these problems actually is very difficult task, but we have successfully established ourselves over the years that how we are managing, and we are progressing in a kind of very impressive scale despite all these odds and obstacles. Without this, one thing that these challenges actually made us to work more effectively or more forcefully, and without challenges also, if all these things would not have come, much of our energy and resources we could have saved, and we would have also reached at a different level. It could have been also true. So point actually, I want to tell you that these challenges actually are very diverse and dynamic, and it requires a kind of serious attention. As academics, we have a kind of a partial understanding, we know certain things, but when we get experts like General Ravindran, who has actually kind of vast and rich experience in the field, and he knows, and he is kind of having a kind of a rich corpus of knowledge. So we must take the advantage of his presence, and we must listen to him and try to get inputs to formulate or to better reformulate our research problems and enhance our understanding. So I think it is a kind of a good move, and I know South Asian Center for South Asian Studies has been organizing series of important programs like this, and earlier also Professor Raju and Professor Purushottam, they have invited many scholars of eminence, those who have delivered series of lectures. Those are quite beneficial. Now I am sure this particular lecture is very important and very contextual, and I am sure the students and faculty will be immensely benefited, and I urge all the students and faculty also to interact really with Lieutenant General Ravindran and try to enhance your understanding and get inputs which may be useful for formulating and designing your research problem and understanding. So I wish the event a kind of grand success. I have nothing more to add. Thank you so much. All the best.
Right at the outset, I'd like to thank the Honorable Vice Chancellor who was very kind enough to invite me to the university to give a talk. And prior to that, of course, extremely grateful for making me a part of the Pondicherry University family by nominating me or appointing me as an adjunct faculty, both in the Department of Social Sciences, as also another adjunct faculty, the Department of Management Studies. So I'm a two professor of Pondicherry University, professor twice over. So that's it. I'm also very grateful to to Professor Mohanty, Dr. Mohanty, and also to Professor Dr. Raju, who are the two pillars under whom I shall be functioning, and I hope that I'm able to bring some value to the table and be of use to the students first of all, because the faculty in any case are exalted, knowledgeable people, and I may not be able to add too much to their experience and knowledge, but to the young minds it will be a great opportunity for me to interact. I don't want to call this a lecture, I don't want to call it a special lecture, it's more an interactive session, because I believe I continue to be a student of matters military, and I think I learn as much from you all as you would possibly learn from me. So here we go. We are going to talk about the security challenges to a rising India. And when we talk about security challenges to a rising India, what I actually attempted to do was to carry out what we call as a net assessment of India. And as you all would probably know, net assessment is actually a comparison of a country with all its competitors and all his rivals in all possible realms that you can think of. And after having done that, you cull out the lessons or the essence of what you're actually looking for. In this particular case, the security challenges to India. But before I start talking about the security challenges to India, I would like to tell you one little fact. And that fact is, there is hardly any aspect in a country's existence which does not have a correlation to its security. A very benign issue like population also has a relation to the security. Now let's look at two aspects which will clarify the statement of mine that the population has a security challenge to the country. The first, the larger the population, the more the constraint of resources, lesser the resources, more the degree of dissatisfaction, more the dissatisfaction, more amount of violence. And that becomes a security challenge or a security threat to the country. Look at it from another angle. Population like ours, young, and we have what is known as the youth bulge. If this youth bulge is not managed, and if this youth bulge would not get its kind of an avocation, get its kind of a job, and wherewithal for existence, this youth bulge is going to take to activities which are going to be detrimental to the country. Now that again is a security challenge. So you can imagine, there is hardly any realm of or any aspect of a country's existence that does not have a relation to the security. Having said that, what I have done is, I have looked at certain specifics which have impacted us in the recent past, to start with COVID. Well, why I'm bringing COVID when there are so many other challenges? Because COVID not only brought in a threat, but it also brought in an opportunity, which is very important to understand, exactly like the way China was explained to you by both Dr. Raju and by Dr. Gurmeet. COVID was a challenge to our country medically, socially, economically, and consequently from the security angle. However, it was a great opportunity. I will be talking about it a little more later. India is one of the largest producers of vaccine. In the world, we produce the largest number of vaccines. So what did we do? We indulged in what was known as the COVID diplomacy, which reaped us a huge amount of benefit. So a security threat many a times can become a benefit for the nation. So that is why I included this. Then of course you have Afghanistan. Afghanistan is in a very precarious state today. Why is it in a precarious state? Because the ISF withdrew from Afghanistan and in came Taliban. Taliban came in from 47% of poverty in Afghanistan in the year 2020. In 2023, Afghanistan has got 97% poverty, an increase of 50%. Humongous. Now, but Afghanistan has also given us a threat and an opportunity. The threat being the Taliban by its very nature is likely to have an impact on the spread of religious fundamentalism, jihadism and all other forms of security related issues that can happen inside our country. Not only Kashmir, Kashmir is the most prominent, but in the other fields also. But what is the opportunity? The withdrawal of ISF has created a vacuum in Afghanistan which India is very, very capable of filling in and being able to have brownie points in the World Forum. So that's the opportunity. Now look at another one. The setting sun, the United States of America. Pan-Americana is on the decline. In the political, economic and in the moral realm, there is a decline of the United States of America in the world. And that makes America lean towards a rising sun like India, as also it gives opportunity for India to play a much better and a more important role as one of the powers of the world, which we are becoming, and very soon we will be one. So that is another. And then I also studied China. Obviously, China has been a threat, is a threat, and will be a threat for a very long time to come. But like China also has given us threats, it has given us opportunities. I would not like to dwell on it anymore after that amazing explanation given by Professor Raju and Professor Gurmeet. Russia, Ukraine, you all are aware of it. This I studied in a greater degree of detail because this was an area where we were on the hedge. We were basically not very happy to side with Russia, but diplomacy said otherwise. So we were ambivalent and neutral. We played it beautifully. Our foreign relations department played it beautifully. And even today, we have benefited more from Russian-Ukraine war than we have lost. Look at the amount of oil we have been able to get from Russia and at what rates. Economically, it has been a bonanza. Not only that, the icing on the cake was that the same oil which was banned in the European Union, we got it at a much cheaper rate and we sold it to the European Union as fuel and oil products or oil byproducts. Like they say, sone pe suhaga in Hindi. Similarly, this is an amazing thing that happened to us. And diplomatically and in the World Forum, our stance and our explanation as to why we say what we say has stood us in very good stead. And of course, I call it Israel occupation of Gaza because we can't say that Israel is at war with Hamas. Hamas has really no country. Hamas has no recognition, world recognition or a position to say that they are at war. But it's a very important issue. Here again, traditionally, India has always been a supporter of the resolution of the Palestine-Israel problem, the two-nation theory, and always sided with Palestine for their self-determination. But this was one time, for two reasons, India didn't do that. The reason one was, the kind of activity that Hamas indulged in was completely unacceptable in the international forum. That was one reason. The second reason why we did not side with Hamas was for the simple reason that our relationship with Israel is on the high. So therefore, we are seeing a lot of commonality between us and the Israelis. And that is the reason that we have kept it very, very delicate balancing act in this particular instance, and we have been able to get the best out of the lot. When I looked at India, I looked at these fundamentals, background issues, which I thought were very important, and I dwelled on these to see as to how they impact or what was the influence of these background factors on our security today. And then, of course, I looked at what is the vision for India. Now, if you look at vision for India, you will see that we are looking at certain very big time issues for our country. And anything that is going to be an impediment or a hurdle in achieving this vision of India is going to be a security threat. And in more specific terms, when we look at the Indian interest, or what we call as the Indian national interest, anything that is going to prevent us from, or if anything is going to threaten any one of these national interests of ours, we are definitely going to be uncomfortable, and that's going to be a security threat to a rising India. Anybody wants to discuss a little more on this? You're most welcome. You don't have to worry about the end of the lecture. If you want it right now, we can do it right now, or we can do it wherever you want. Okay. Now I'm going to give you the taxonomy points that I have looked at and how I have arrived at the security challenges to India. In the first taxonomy point is the internal issues of India, the background for which I have already given you. And that was looked at in great degree of detail to see what are the internal factors that is affecting the security for a rising India. And then was, of course, the near regional space. Students of external foreign relations would understand near regional, which is basically India with China and Mongolia on the north. You've got the Central Asian Republic, you've got the Gulf, you've got the Arabian states, and the Eastern African state, including all the Sri Lankan, and a good portion of the China Sea is also the Indian Ocean. So this is what is the near regional. And then I looked at the far regional space, which is virtually the better part of the world, the whole of Africa, the whole of the European Union, and of course including Australia and a fair portion of the Indo-Pacific region. And then finally I looked at the global space, which included the North and South American space and virtually the whole of the world. And when you look at all this, there is a particular methodology of carrying out a net assessment, which was done, and I have derived the specific security challenges to us, including two more taxonomical points, which is the space and the cyber world. Now, this is what constituted my study and analysis to arrive at the security challenges. Now, when you do all this, we do what is known as an internal scan, which is done particularly for our own internal situation within our own country. Now, when we do that, we basically look at any country when you're doing an internal scan from the point of the base, the means, and the capacity. The base is basically as to what are the fundamentals of that nation or that country or that space that you're carrying out a net assessment of, and these are the base. River as an instrument of war, or a river as an instrument of strategy. We have two aspects to it. We have what is known as an upper riparian state and a lower riparian state. We are an upper riparian state to Pakistan. 3 of our rivers flows into Pakistan. And there, what strategy we adopt is going to directly impact us from the security angle also. From the point of view of world opinion, what is going to be the world reaction to whatever we do with our river policy of Pakistan. On the other hand, flip side, we are a lower riparian state to Nepal. And the water that comes from Nepal is causing us a lot of problems from time to time. So that also has got a terrific amount of relevance. And then we have a little bit of a diplomatic needle which constantly keeps pricking us, because Bangladesh is a lower riparian state to me, and rivers of ours flood Bangladesh to an extent that there is a lot of discomfort. Right. Then similarly, significance of island territories. They are too far for our happiness in terms of security and for sense of protection. They are very far away from the mainland. Secondly, they are terrifically important insofar as the geostrategic location of these island territories are concerned. Geostrategic of our country and the SLOC. I mean, Professor Raju is, whatever I say about SLOC will be like showing a candle to the sun. But however, I will say it, SLOC is a very important part of our national space. The sea lanes of communication that are there, particularly in the Indian Ocean, is of tremendous importance. Just to give you a small idea, 90,000 vessels pass through the Indian SLOC every year, carrying as much as 9.84 billion tons of goods from one portion of the world to the other portion of the world. Now that is the kind of a traffic it has. If the traffic is like something like about 250 to 300 ships passing through the south in our bay area, the south of our country, in the sea, every day, 300 vessels. Can you imagine what a kind of a traffic it is? I don't know if there's any policeman who can manage that traffic jam that takes place in that space, but that's what it is. Similarly, the unresolved boundary disputes, I don't want to say too much about it. You people are quite aware of it. And of course, we are an agro-based economy, so it has got its own dynamics. And dependence on import, we are even now hugely dependent on import for a large amount of our requirements, particularly oil. So that makes us vulnerable to a number of security threats. And the demographic divide. India has got a total of 28 states and 8 union territories. And you can virtually say we are a country of 42 nations. Each space is a nation, and I'm quite sure you people will understand what's a nation and what's a state. So therefore, there is always a demographic divide. And that demographic divide has its dynamics, which gives us certain opportunities, but it also presents certain threats and security-related issues. Now that is the base. Now when you come to the means, the economy, infrastructure, energy, technology, pharma and military. Now these are the areas which are actually the means by which we get our power as a nation. But in this, I would only like to touch upon one, and that is pharma. Why have I put pharma in it? Anyone here who can say something about the pharma in our country? Why is pharma so important in terms of means? Interestingly, very interesting, you must be knowing about it.
Like India won the IPR battle with WTO, and they said that during emergencies we can make products in very cheap rate.
Right, that's one good point. Yes, anything else? Anything very interesting that you can think about? Right. Interestingly, India is the largest producer of generic drugs in the world. Nobody else produces more generic drugs than what we do. And our share is 20% of the world's production of drugs is done by India. And the other thing is, we are also the largest producers of vaccine. And we produce 60% of the world's requirement of vaccine in our country. What a fantastic power that is. What a fantastic means of power that is. What a fantastic power of economy that is in our country. That's why I added. Rest of them are understood, but this I thought I need to give a little explanation. Military, of course, you understand what it's all about. Sorry, I'll go back. Yeah, please tell me.
Nothing, sir. Just it passed almost like that's why.
I jumped 2, is it? Okay, I jumped 2. And certain other, which is known as the capacity. After the base and the means comes an aspect as to what is the capacity of our country. What do we get the capacity of our country from? We get it from an assertive government. We get it from unity in diversity, Make in India, which is of a very recent origin, last about 14 years, 14, 15 years, 13 years, whatever, number of years. Active soft power. That is one of the very important aspects of India today. Our soft power is tremendously potent. And then, of course, you have manifestation of religious fault lines, which is another anti-capacity. And then, of course, the caste divide is also an anti-capacity, which drains my capacity. So that's also been added here. Then I come to the external scan of the near regional, far regional, and of course the globe. In this, what I have done is in the real regional geopolitical environment is what I have concentrated on in South Asia, IOR, Indian Ocean region, Southeast Asia and Oceania. In the far region, looked at East Asia, Gulf, West Asia, North Africa, Eurasia. In the relevant global, European Union, North America, Latin America, and Indo-Pacific. And then, of course, the global organizations and the cyber and space environment. Now, that is the kind of a study that took me to be able to arrive at the security threats, which I've been talking. I'm talking about security threats alongside what I am giving you as an introduction also. Now, the key factors. When we analyze the key factors when looking at an external scan, we do what is known as a PESTLE M. This stands for political, social, technological, legal, and environmental, and military. We look at these issues, and economic. These are the issues that we look at when we carry out a scan. Now, when you carry out the scan, we look at US withdrawal from Afghanistan. I've already talked about it, and what is impact it's had on us. Battling by COVID, I've talked about COVID. I will not want to talk more about it. Quad. Quad is an important issue which has been very, very important for us for developing capacity, and in the World Forum, we have become an important player. Now, I'm quite sure you all know what Quad is. Quad is an informal strategic alliance between 4 countries, which consists of Australia, India, Japan, and United States of America. Now, interestingly, the Quad generates as much as about, some humongous quantity. Now, if I have that right, let me see. It basically is approximately about $37.9 billion or trillion dollars is the kind of a global product, global domestic product of this. So we have economically also huge strength. And what is this Quad doing basically? We are looking at the peace, prosperity, and the well-being of the Indo-Pacific region. And this was formed primarily because of the threat from China, which was, as you all know, causing a lot of discomfort insofar as the South China Sea was concerned, and its influence in the area of the Indian Ocean was growing to an extent that it was even threatening world trade, and because of that, that Quad was formed, and this is basically against the Chinese hegemony, and that I have put it there. Reduced Pak credibility has caused a lot of opportunities for us, but has also caused a lot of threat. The point that we must remember is, while Pakistan may be the most uncomfortable entity in our existence and our happiness, but the complete decimation or complete collapse of Pakistan would be more dangerous than good for us. Existence of a fairly comfortable and okay Pakistan is in our benefit. Otherwise, we are likely to be in a greater degree of difficulty. So that is the point that I wanted to make. Then you have the Russia and the European Union support for India's permanent seat in UN Security Council. This is a very important aspect, because if we want to reduce our security related problems, which emanates and more times than not gets accentuated because of a veto by China, that would be reduced if we were to be able to find a little toehold in the Security Council for ourselves, a permanent seat in the UNSC. We have a huge market in the Central Asian Republic and the Latin American, and this, when it is denied to us, prevents us from getting the kind of an economic development and improvement that we desire, and that translates itself into our security related problem, primarily because from the point of view of resources, financial resources, all our defense services are struggling for modernization because they have financial restraint. And whatever financial resources are made available to us, close to 92% of the financial resources are used up in revenue expenditures like pay, salary, maintenance of buildings, this, that, and the other, and we hardly are having about 3 to 4% of the capital that is given to the military forces for modernization purposes. And that is the reason why we are not modernizing as fast as we should. And when your military is not modernized, it is a direct impact on the security of the nation. So that is how this gets related. Then you have the global distrust of China, the China diplomacy, the China's debit diplomacy. I'm quite aware, you all are aware of it, but just a word. China has been giving money to a large number of countries and helping them to do very many things, because of which they have extended a huge quantum of loan to the nation. A classic example is the port of Hambantota in Sri Lanka, and the China decided or agreed to develop Hambantota into an international port size and facilities wise, and they gave a certain amount of loan to Sri Lanka. And since Sri Lanka was not able to service that loan, they got into a debt trap. I hope everybody is clear about debt trap. Debt trap is a situation when you are not able to pay any portion of the capital, you are only servicing the interest, and the time comes when you are not able to even give the interest portion. So you get into a trap situation where you are just not in a position to repay that loan. Because Sri Lanka wanted to get out of that, they agreed to give Hambantota port to China on 99 years lease at a paltry sum of $19.7 million. You can imagine. It is not the port facility which is so important of Hambantota. Hambantota is an amazing port. But the more important aspect is, Hambantota is strategically possibly one of the most important port in the South Asian region. The most important. It is even more important than the Colombo Harbour or the port of Colombo. It is such an amazing port. And then as an asider, since I'm going to be an asider, I'll take this off, put it here, take this and put it into my pocket. You know, we in the military, when we want to become informal, you know what we do? We take off our cap. So it's getting too warm, so I'm taking off my coat, right? Just an asider, when I was doing the NDC National Defense course in Delhi, there was a gentleman, Ravi Vijay Ratne. who later on rose to be the CDS of Sri Lanka and retired as the CDS. Incidentally, late Bipin Rawat was also doing the same course with me. So in India, Bipin Rawat became CDS, and there Ravi Vijay Ratne became the CDS. One day, Vijay comes to the class and he stands up in the podium. We were permitted to say things to our course mates. So if you wanted everybody's attention, you went to the podium and you say, "May I have your attention?" Everybody, we were just 100 of us. So in the course, so he would address. One day he said that, "Hey friends, I have something to tell you." Say, "Okay, what do you want to tell us?" He says, "I want to warn India because we have been requesting India to do up our Hambantota port." This is the year 2010. So we have been requesting, and India has just not been reacting, and they have not been forthcoming in helping us to develop and improve our Hambantota port. So now the government of Sri Lanka has decided that they are going to seek the assistance of China. Everybody said no, particularly the Indian students, no. But still, he said there may be a no, but what choice do we have? And mind you, he said this. He said this is not going to augur well for India. 2010 came as a prophecy. And we are today in a situation where Hambantota is with China for 99 years. What is the meaning of the port being with China for 99 years? Once, all the economic activity of the port will be done through China, and they will benefit all the money. More importantly, they have free and complete berthing right of their military vessels in the area of Hambantota. Distance of Hambantota from the Indian shoreline would not be more than about 200 odd kilometers. That's it. So at 200 kilometers, those guys are going to keep their submarines, they're going to keep all their warships, they're going to keep their aircraft carriers, they're going to keep everything, they're going to keep huge logistic bases, and India can do nothing. Now that is the kind of an implication. So that is why I wanted you to understand what is the impact of global distrust of China, and that this was understood by the whole, has been understood by the whole world, and this is one of the key factors that we have studied. West Asia looking towards India, West Asia, the Arabian countries, as you know, the Islamic countries of the world have a kind of understanding, and they are a group together. There are approximately 50 countries of the world which has got a majority Muslim population, and Pakistan has always been very ambitious to gain the leadership of the Arab world, but now that is getting hugely neutralized because the West Asian countries, the Arabian states, like you know, whether it is Saudi Arabia, Qatar, whoever are there, they're all showing greater affinity for the way India is doing things and to do business and to be allied with India. So that is another plus that we are having. And then of course you have key factors like Indian diaspora. You know, interestingly, what is the quantum of Indian diaspora? 17.9 million people of Indian origin are in the diaspora in the whole world. And you know who are some of the most famous Indians who are there in the world? Of course, many of you will know. Rishi Sunak, who's he? Quickly. Prime Minister of India. Okay, Kamala Harris. Come on, South Indian. Yeah, she is the Vice President of the United States of America. Okay, now what about this one? Maybe not. Ajay Banga. Wow, you guys are good. You really are good. You guys know. And what about Pichai? And Nadella? There you go. Just see, look at that. Where is India today? We are virtually ruling the world. Whether it is economy or finance, whether it is politics, whether it is the industries like the software industries, we are ruling the roost. That is what India is all about. So this is a very huge, important aspect that we have to remember about Indian diaspora. ASEAN members to counterbalance China, all these are normal. I'll just go to geopolitical compulsions of the United States. So you are to understand this very carefully. Till recently, the compulsion of the United States of America to be on the side of Pakistan was very, very stringent because it had two reasons. One was the war against the terror, and virtually Pakistan was at the hub of it, and if they were on the side of the United States, then the United States could have controlled terror in a much better way. Today that has been largely neutralized, but still Pakistan is a counterbalance in the US diplomatic thought process. Pakistan continues to be a counterbalance for the Chinese hegemony and the Chinese growing powers. Because Pakistan is allied and close to China, they feel that continued aid to Pakistan is an important aspect of their thing, which is completely detrimental to our security issues. So this is the connect. And then of course balancing act between Palestine and Ukraine war and the balancing act between Palestine and Israel. This I have talked about, not go too much. Quickly come on to the SWOT analysis. In this I will talk about the strength. Again we talk in terms of base, means and capacity. In strength we talk about the geostrategic location. India's geostrategic location is very important. With the center of gravity shifting from the Europe and American space and shifting into the Asian space, and given the fact that India is virtually at the center of the Asian space with a huge peninsular region and a massive ocean to its south, with a very important or the most important SLOC located in its own region, and with the kind of natural resources India can boast of, it becomes a terrifically important space insofar as the strategy is concerned. Then is the demographic divide. We have a huge advantage of demographic divide in our country. That's one of our strengths, though of course it has got its problems, but it's one of our strengths. If you look at the means, the technological and IT power of India is amazing. There is no better industrial or the technical prowess that is there in the world as compared to our engineers. To that extent that many of our engineers who have exported themselves to foreign countries, have made that country rich and powerful and very, very good in the industrial field. Whether it is United States of America, talk about Germany, except I think Japan is the only one we have not sent our brains to. Because they are also Asians, so possibly they have enough and more, they don't need anything for it. But otherwise, they are terrific. Then of course you have the cyber capability. Our cyber capability is one of the best in the world, but extremely underpotent because of the lack of development in the cyberspace, which we need to look at very seriously. And then the space launch industry, you people know it. Today we are number 3 in the world after our Chandrayaan landed on the moon, and our space industry or the space launch industry is possibly one of the most highly profitable industries that India has and one of the most profitable launch industries of the world. Then you have the capacity. We have a strong and decisive leadership. Modi ji, whatever it's worth, that's there. So whatever it is worth. Weaknesses. From weaknesses comes your security challenges and security related issues to a rising India. And in that, the first is the boundary dispute. I don't want to elaborate. Energy dependence on exports. Our energy is a very important issue. And as we keep becoming more and more economically stronger, as we get more and more developed, the need for energy is going to grow more and more as the days come. And the unfortunate fact is, nobody in the world has been able to still find a good enough substitute for fossil fuel, particularly oil. Now, so therefore, this being one of our weaknesses is proving to be a direct security threat to us. But India is doing a lot. It's doing a lot to come over this, particularly our energy from the alternate source like sun and waves and wind. That is taking a huge leap forward, and of course the other areas that they're doing. When I talk in terms of the means, one of the most important issues is the internal security issues. You're aware that we have got this problem starting from the time we got independence. Soon on getting independence, we had a problem in the Northeast. It started off with a simple requirement or a demand by Nagaland for self-determination, which was not accepted. It turned into a very horrific kind of a rural insurgency, spread its wings all over the Northeast. Thereafter, you had the Nagaland problem, then you had the Assam problem. From Ulfa, they jumped into the Bodoland problem, and then of course you had the Gurkhaland problem. So there have been problems and problems, and not to talk of one which is going to be there for a long time to come and going to be very difficult to eradicate is the left-wing extremism, what we call as the Naxalite movement in our country. It has been arrested very well. It has been controlled very effectively, but it continues to keep raise its head time and again, and that's a threat. And then not to talk of what is the Khalistan doing and what they are likely to do to us. That's another issue that we need to look at insofar as our situation is concerned. Lack of R&D and culture of innovation is something that we suffer from quite a bit. Our R&D facilities in our countries is very rudimentary, if I may say so. In some fields they are very good, but in other fields they are lacking humongously. And for you young brains, particularly you guys who are going to look at academia and want to do your PhD and take Dr. Raju's footsteps and follow the way he's done work for himself or done work for the country. For you, I would like to say that our research capabilities are not adequate enough at all. So that is this issue, which is a weakness. And then of course, in our capacity, anti-capacity, the corruption in our country. Not a very good thing to say, but we are a corrupt nation and we need to accept that. You young people need to accept that. And you young people need to not only accept it, you need to correct it. But remember, you can only correct it if you know that there is a problem. If you feel that there is no problem, then there is no opportunity to even correct it. So please recognize this fact that corruption is a huge drain and translating directly into a security threat to our nation's development and well-being. Therefore, you need to fight that. Opportunities, I don't want to talk too much. Quad, I've talked about. Global distrust of China, I've talked about. Void in Afghanistan, I've talked about. So a quick run through the bullets, and if anybody has anything that they want to talk about or elaborate or discuss, I'm happy to do that. I'll count 10, 7, 8, 9, 10, done. Okay. Next one, the threats. Now when we come to the threats in the SWOT analysis, these are the threats which actually translate as actual security related issues for a rising India. The first of them is enduring friendship of China and Pakistan. No elaboration required. Every student of foreign relations will understand this. China's influence in the neighbor and the IOR. This is a very important factor, and we'll be talking a little more about it as we go along. As to how this was taught to us by no less than a person than Kautilya, that this is one thing that you people must watch out for, but that is happening. China's militarization of space. Anybody can tell me as to what is it that they have done in the space, militarization of space, that is so worrying for us? Sorry? Anti-satellite. Very correct. Amazing kind of a capability which nobody has been able to develop. China has developed it. Or if anybody else has got it, it's not in the open. Maybe the United States has it, but it's not in the open. They have developed what is known as an anti-satellite capability in space. So if you put up a satellite, as long as it is for agriculture or to map your water, they will not do anything much about it. But the minute you put a military satellite, tack, they're gone. Within a matter of seconds it will go. And what is the second one? Something very similar to that. Anti-ship missiles. That is a capability which even United States doesn't have. And that is an ICBM capability, intercontinental ballistic missile capability, which is used specifically for targeting a ship, a warship. Warship, and in war, you know, everything is fair in love and war. In war, you even target the commercial shipping to bring down the economic capabilities of your enemy. So that anti-shipping, that is what the China's capability has done. Then you have the rest of it, and then you have Talibanization of Afghanistan and talks with China. The Talibanization of Afghanistan we have talked about. You know, the impact in our country has been quite tremendous. I have had some very interesting people tell me as to how the system that is being followed by the Taliban in Afghanistan, particularly their injustice or their unfair treatment of women, their unfair treatment of girl child, and their unfair treatment of certain other things like you can't sing, you can't dance, you can't, I mean, it's very interesting. I saw a clip which was sent to me by somebody where they have shown pictures of Afghanistan, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, everybody, particularly ladies, pictures, all like what you and we all are. This was about 30 years back. And they've shown the present day pictures. In all these places, the ladies are covered from top to toe, right? Okay, it's a religious issue, so I don't want to talk too much about it. But the point is, this is also having an impact on our country, and how it is impacting us is impacting us on our religious fundamental thought processes. That is not good. In either ways, it's not good. Whether it is being done by any religion, a fundamentalist religion, is never good for the security of the nation. But this particular issue of Taliban's methodologies in Afghanistan is having a direct impact on us in India. This is one of the spaces that we need to look at. And they talk with China. China is getting closer and closer with Afghanistan. The reason is, even as the ISF was vacating Afghanistan, China started doing it because Afghanistan is one of the world's richest geographical space for natural resources. Various forms of metal, some of the rare earth metals are available there. It's rich in gold. The only thing they have not yet found inside Afghanistan is oil. Otherwise, it's one of the richest countries insofar as natural resources are concerned, completely unexploited, because they never got a chance to exploit it. Neither do they have the wherewithal. Neither the industrial, nor the educational, nor technological, they don't have any kind of anything. So these are the threats which are there. I'm not dwelling too much on all of them because I'm going to come down to a little more specific of this, coming to Pakistan. The first major threat that we face from Pakistan to a rising India is terror. It has been said by the UN that there are a total of 150 terror entities in Pakistan, individual and groups. I've listed about 16, 17 of them which came to my head, so I immediately jotted it down, but you can imagine 150. That's what is the kind of a terror setup Pakistan has got. Terror has become an instrument of war insofar as Pakistan is concerned. I don't say that it is wrong, because we have a hybrid system of warfare even in our Mahabharata. Does anybody know where in Mahabharata they used hybrid system of warfare? Sorry? Mahabharata. In Mahabharata war, there were a lot of places where hybrid warfare was used. I hope you understand hybrid warfare, where you use normal regular warfare along with unconventional and irregular warfare. Irregular warfare is terrorism and insurgency. These are all irregular form of warfare, right? I don't want to go into the Treaty of Westphalia and how a nation state was and what is the nation state. That's a long story. I don't want to get into that. But the basic fact is, two entities cannot be at war with one another if they are not a recognized state. India can go to war with Pakistan, but Israel cannot go to war with Hamas. It is not called war. But many a times nowadays, many countries are going in for what is known as hybrid warfare, which is known as the 4th generation warfare or the 5th generation warfare, in which they use conventional warring system or methodologies with the unconventional system. They use terrorism as a part of their normal military activity, like Pakistan has been doing it right from 1947-48, right? When they sent in all the Razakars and they have sent all those kind of people inside, that was an irregular form of warfare. They did that even during Op Vijay. They sent all forms of terrorist elements into our Tiger Hill, Batalek and all those kind of spaces in Kargil area, saying that no, they are not army, but that is a hybrid form of warfare. Subsequently, we came to know that they are Northern Light Infantry, which is a regular army. So that kind of using terror as an instrument of war by the state in a hybrid form of warfare is something that Pakistan has been doing, which has been causing us a hell of a lot of problem. To give you a small example of what is the kind of a resource whirlpool it is which is sucking us in. 42% of the Indian army is deployed in J&K. 42% of the Indian army. Out of that 42% is just approximately 12 to 15% of the Indian army in J&K, which is used for conventional purposes of holding defenses, holding posts and things like that. The balance of the complete Indian army which is there in J&K is fighting terror and fighting the problems of terrorism in J&K. So close to 1/3 of the Indian army is pitted against terrorism and insurgency caused by Pakistan. Can you imagine the kind of a drain it is on us? Imagine the kind of a security threat that is to us. And if the security threat consists to persist, what is the kind of an impediment it's going to pose to a rising India? Now, that is the kind of a thing that you people need to understand. And that is why this becomes an important point. Is this a touch screen? It goes back on its own? No, it went front. There you go. Okay. I'm good, I can do this. I'm okay. This is a touch screen. Oh, you should have told me that. I would have touched it a little more often than that. Border issues with Pakistan have been a lingering problem. Technically, there should be no border problem if we had continued to fight the war of 1947-48 to its culmination. But that didn't happen because of the large-heartedness of our politicians who never understood what strategy is all about. They stopped the Indian army from continuing with that, and Indian army at that point in time said, give us 4 more days and we will throw the complete lot of the Pakistani army from the borders of J&K. If that had happened, then we would have had borders. We wouldn't have had LC. You know the difference between LC, line of control, and the border. International border is inviolable. You cannot violate international border. If tomorrow I go to war with Pakistan, if I take even 3 square feet of Pakistan territory inside the international border, when the war finishes, I'll have to give it back to him. I can't keep it. But that is not the case with LC. The taker keeps it. So if I take some land in the war in J&K, in the LC area, I keep it. Nobody can force me to give it back. Now, that is the kind of a problem that had, and this problem has come up primarily because all those areas of Gilgit and problems in the areas of the Pak-occupied Kashmir, all that problem has arisen because of the 1947-48 issue. And it is festering even today, and it has become one of those basic issues on which Pakistan is not ready to even talk to us. They say first talk about J&K and resolve J&K, then we will talk about everything else. What does India say in turn? What do we say? Anybody? What is our thing? What is our refrain? What do we say? First do this and only then we will talk? Yes. First resolve this terrorist and cross-border terrorism and only then we will talk. So both of us are standing on our own positions, not ready to let go. So therefore, there is no parley and there is no rapprochement. There is a 4G factor. Now this is something that I need you all to understand a little more critically. Why 4G factor? There are very many things that was not possible to be done with the 2G system of communication and IW thing. But with the 4G, you are able to do far more things than is possible with the 2G. And now with the coming of 5G, it may become even worse. What is Pakistan able to do? It is able to use the internet to support proxy war. It is able to raise money, recruiting, propaganda ideologies, resistance forces, and Tariq bin Ilham, the TMI. These are all the kind of people who have started all these hacking and all these kind of issues, which is causing this is the cyber world, this is the cyber space where they are doing this. So I have not separated space and cyber. I have been giving it as a part of the talk because otherwise it becomes too extensive. And then of course the deep state information warfare that they are doing using hacking, which is one of the most famous things that they are doing, and one of the very important remote access Trojan called RAT, which was used for surveillance and for unauthorized access to victims' computer, was done by Pakistan in one of their labs or whatever they called it, the Black Lotus. That's what they called it. Now this is the deep state information warfare they are indulging in. Deep state information warfare that they are carrying on is also, a lot of people are also having a school of thought to say the Niger problem of Canada was masterminded through what is known as gaslighting by Pakistan. Now, I don't also want to go into the realms of what is gaslighting, but that's a very important concept because that is being used extensively today by all the countries in the world. Gaslighting is a particular style of propaganda, anti-propaganda or propaganda, so you must understand that also. Okay. Then is terror as an instrument of war, nuclear capability Pakistan. Interestingly, Pakistan has got more nuclear warheads than what we have. We have 160, we have 150. Now, it's not a game of numbers. Right? Everybody does it based on what he thinks is the required quantity of nuclear weapons you need. But the interesting factor is, all this 160 is aimed towards only India, because he doesn't have anybody else to worry about. And this 150 is aimed both against China and against Pakistan. Right? So you can imagine, while we are trying to be conservative, and how very unreasonably he has gone on to 160 nuclear warheads. The clandestine proliferation of missiles and nuclear know-how has been a major security issue that we have been facing, and this is going to manifest itself in a very dangerous way for us as the days go by. And the reason for that, I'll come at the end of this talk, which will finish in the next about 5-7 minutes. I'll tell you at that time, I'll connect this up with you. China as Mitra in Kautilian sense. This is what I told you, that I'll be talking a little bit of Kautilya later. This is what I want to talk to you about. Sahaja Mitra is a person, or is a philosophy which has been suggested by Kautilya, where he says that if you have a neighbor who's an enemy, that neighbor's neighbor will invariably be your friend, or you should cultivate him as a friend. He need not necessarily be a friend. I'll give an example. India has a problem with Pakistan. We are inimical to each other. So we should cultivate Afghanistan, who is Pakistan's neighbor, and try to cultivate him as my friend. Now that is Sahaja Mitra. Now this is a little contrary to the English way of looking at it. What is the English way of looking at it, or what is the anglicized way of looking at it, is that you say neighbors, an enemy's enemy is your friend. That's the way they put it. An enemy's enemy is your friend. That's the way they put it. Okay. Now, how will that be translated if you were to translate it into an example? Little difficult, but I'll try. Pakistan tried that. What did Pakistan do? India is an enemy, and they try to disrupt or spoil the relationship between India and Sri Lanka. So what happens, he says, an enemy's enemy will then become a friend. But that didn't happen, luckily. But if that had happened, that will be a very classical anglicized system of understanding. An enemy's enemy is your friend. But what did Kautilya say? Kautilya said, your enemy's neighbor should be cultivated as a friend. That is what he said. That will be beneficial to you. But it's got a lot of similarities. So there's a little blurring line in between. So try and get around this concept. It will be of use to you in your future days. The second is the Kautilya Rajamandala is another concept which he says, which has been very classically been followed by China, which is they otherwise now popularly called the string of pearls. The string of pearls concept, I won't go into it. I am running out of time. And my breath, I'm getting tired. Okay, then of course you have the global Islamic axis. I've already told there are 50 countries which are technically called Islamic because they have a larger or they have a majority Muslim population as compared to others, and Pakistan is constantly endeavoring to become their leader. And if that happens, there is a point in time you people would have read, as particularly practitioners of for foreign relation students, you would have heard it as the Islamic bomb. When Pakistan was trying to develop its nuclear capability, it was promising all its friends in that global Islamic axis, it was promising everybody that we will make an Islamic bomb. Once we make it, the Islamic power will increase. Of course, the nuclear culmination into a bomb in Pakistan never translated into an Islamic bomb. That is because of the huge sensibilities of the larger population of the Islamic world. They're all very sensible, very clear. No, this is not the route we should take. This is absolutely wrong. So it got stalled and stopped. But that is the kind of a thought process Pakistan has always had, which has always been a problem, will continue to be a problem for a little while. And it is going to be a security challenge for a rising India. And then of course the CPEC, you know about it, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. It is proving to be quite a magic to improve the Pakistani economic situation or the economic condition. Pakistan's economic condition or Pakistan's poor economic condition is one of the major reins by which Pakistan can be kept under control. If Pakistan becomes repellent with huge amount of resources and economic flourish, then what will happen is they will be unmanageable. Now this is how this CPEC is proving to be a security challenge for a rising India. Coming to China, I'll keep it simple. China's influence in neighboring countries and in the Indian Ocean region, no explanation required. Enduring friendship of China and Pakistan, again very clear, I don't think too much of thing. Militarization of space, we talked about direct energy weapons, which is basically the anti-satellite weapon system that they're developing, and the direct energy weapon system is the system that the anti-ship system and also anti-satellite system. China's intent to divert Brahmaputra water. I hope you understand what this is all about. Brahmaputra has been a big challenge for us. It has been a big environmental challenge for us. It has caused devastation in our economic sector, but it has never been a security issue for us at all. That is because Brahmaputra flows through Assam, as you people are aware. It causes devastation there, a huge amount of floods and all those problems are there, which is not really security related in the real sense of the word. But by China diverting Brahmaputra water, what they are likely to do is they are trying to make their water deficient or water depleted areas, which is neighboring India in the Chinese sector, into water surplus space. And they are going to produce some humongous quantity of wattage of power, some 40,000 watts or something like that. I can't remember the figures exactly now, but that is the kind of a power generation that is going to have. But when they do this, when the Brahmaputra water is diverted, Sinkiang river is diverted, when it comes into India as a Brahmaputra, it will become a trickle. There will be hardly any water in our Brahmaputra. So therefore, all our hydel powers, all our requirement of water in the northeast will be hugely affected. When that happens, water wars will start. And that is an issue that, thank you so much, very kind of you. So that is the issue of Brahmaputra and how it relates to security challenges for India from China to a rising India. That's it. Talibanization of Afghanistan talks to China, external support insurgents both in J&K and Northeast. China has been supporting them very tacitly, and one of the bigger areas where we are more worried now is the area of Uttarakhand, where they have started doing this in a very big way, because Darchula is a township which is divided, half of it is in Nepal, half of it is here, and in that area China has got a huge influence on Nepal and causing us a hell of a lot of security problems. Incidentally, does anybody know as to whom all we have border problems with? With whom all do we suffer this border territorial problems with? Pakistan? Who else?
Bangladesh,
China, of course, everybody knows. China. And? Nepal. Where in Nepal? Exactly. I'm so happy that you people are aware of that. It's a very important issue. And it's a tri-junction of India, Nepal and Tibet, as I like to call it. I don't like to call Tibet China, but anyway, it's a tri-junction of that. Right? The Kalapani area is a very important space where Nepal is asking for a certain amount of territory, which will be very detrimental to our security issues. Bangladesh is not really a territorial issue. The problem with Bangladesh is what happens is that when the rivers of Ganga particularly flows into Bangladesh, when in the monsoon season, the river becomes very wide, but it widens more towards India and less towards Bangladesh. But when it is normal, it becomes a river which is that side. So internationally, the system of making international border is that if there is a river, the center of the river is taken as the border. Half the river that side, half the river this side. And in the case of mountains, how do you denote, how do they mark the international border? Anybody knows how they do it? They do it on what is known as the watershed. If the mountain is like this, the top of the mountain is known as the watershed. Why is it called the watershed? Because the water falls on this, which is the watershed, and some water flows this way and some water flows this way. Whatever water flows this way converts and becomes a river. Whatever flows this way goes. So that is why it's known as a watershed. So if you have a mountain, you will have a row of watershed like that. So when you make the border, what you do is you take the watershed and you put a line all along the watershed, and that becomes the international border between the two countries. That side of the hill is yours, or that side of the mountain is yours, that side of the mountain is mine. Now why am I telling you this? This is because when you understand border issues, you have to understand what is the problem in the area of Siachen Glacier. From NJ 946 to Siachen, the area has never been demarcated between India and Pakistan, because it was such an impassable and such a difficult territory to go to, nobody could map it. So Pakistan started saying, this is my territory. We said, no, nothing. As per watershed treaty, it should be this. And as per watershed system, K2, which is the second largest or second highest mountain in the world, where a huge amount of expeditions go, that will go into Pakistan. And the whole Siachen Glacier goes into Pakistan, which is not an accepted system insofar as India is concerned. And that is why we fought for Siachen Glacier, and today it is ours. And it is ours firmly with India, and there is no question about it. I'm digressing a little bit, but I'm doing this because I thought that as I go along, I'll tell you all are students, these are issues which you must be able to comprehend, to be able to understand what you read. It's just not enough to be theoretical about things. You must be able to understand what the practical applications of various teachings are there, which are there in international relations and studies of that nature. And that is, you have unresolved border issues, trade deficit with China is humongous. A very, very lopsided trade deficit, and more than trade deficit, I'm more worried about the informal Chinese industrial inputs into our country. The other day we went, of course we bought it for my granddaughter, a kind of a slate in which you can write, and then you press a button, it becomes clean, then you can write again. And lo and behold, what happened? My wife turns around, she says, yeah, this is made in China. And who's selling it? Why am I saying informal manufacturing and sales system? Who's selling it? People are selling it in red lights. You know, you're driving and there is a red light and you stop. And there are 5-7 poor people coming with a bunch of this, sir, please. How much? 300 rupees. How much will you get? I said, 50. He said, 75, 100. Okay, here's 100. You take it. Now, that is the kind of a thing that China is doing. China has started making things like Ganesha, they started making Krishna, they started making everything. They're making holy colors, they're making crackers, they're making pichkaris. You know pichkari, holy? You play pichkari? Pichkari is made in China. I mean, what is happening? What happens to my small industries? How do they prosper? And if my small industries don't prosper, a chap who's making pitchkaris will tomorrow start doing burglary and thuggery and get into insurgency and become a terrorist. It's directly relating to my security. Can't let this happen. So that is how it is. And of course, the trade deficit between India and in the true sense of the word is an important issue that we need to look at. Some are external threats like cyber threats from state and non-state actors, religious extremism, growing Sino-Russian cooperation. This is a very important issue. Please take a look at it. Growing US-sponsored embargo on Iran. We are allied with Iran, and when Iran is being tail twisted by the United States, it has an implication on us. And ISIS things, space-based surveillance capability of USA and China, geopolitical compulsions. I'm not going into very great details because I would need at least 3 or 4 days of 1 hour lecture each to be able to explain everything. But I'm giving you food for thought. Please keep mulling over this as you go along. Internal threats, we have talked about most of it. If anybody has got anything, I'll count till 10. 9, 10. That's done. Okay, here we go. Others. This is some 3 points. This is the last slide, which I think I must talk to you all about, which is India's rapid economic growth. You've seen this has happened. Why has Canada done what it did and started talking about Niger and that we have sponsored and we have got him assassinated and all that? That is because there is a certain desire to curb India's growth politically, diplomatically, economically in all spheres. Like this, since India is growing intrinsically, we are attracting a lot of security related issues which becomes a security threat to us to a rising India. You get the connection that I'm trying to make? Try and look at what you read, what you see, and understand. From this angle, you will find that a lot of things start making sense. Second is growing population of the youth bulge. This is a very important issue of the security of the nation which nobody talks of. You people are now at an age when you are soon going to become professionals, going to get into a job. You know, like they say in that Jawani Diwani, I think that's the movie in which that guy says, you know, 24 पे नौकरी, 25 पे छोकरी, 26 पे शादी, 27 पे बच्चा, 30 पे उसके बाद मौत का इंतजार. मुझे ऐसी बेकार की जिंदगी नहीं जीनी. This is the dialogue, right? Right? So don't be like that. Look at this. This is very important. A youth bulge is why? Because your progenies or your children who are going to be there, they are going to be into a difficult situation. Today we have that situation. You have engineers, you have got PhDs driving auto rickshaws. This happened in Assam. Year of the Lord 1979. There was an auto rickshaw driver who gave me a ride. I asked him, I said that, why are you riding an auto rickshaw if you say you speak such good English? He said, what have you studied? So I have done my I've done my MSc. What have you done your MSc? So MSc chemistry. Why are you doing this? Because there's no job. That time it was not so bad in the year of the Lord 1978. We are now in the year of the Lord 2023. Your children will be, what are they called? Millennials children are called alphas. They're all going to be alphas. And alphas without job, you can imagine the kind of a problem that is going to cause to the country and the kind of a security related issues that's going to develop. So the youth pulse is a very important issue. Think about it. Think about it. You may be just scratching yourself out of that problem, but your children are definitely going to be in it. So you have to think about it and see as to how you can. That is why, you know, recently there is the Prime Minister's initiative. That lady had come to SRM University and she was trying to say everybody must have a startup. What that lady was trying to do is she's saying, she was going to the university and I had taken a lecture at SRM University. So there that lady had come and she says, if every person who's graduating or post-graduating or whatever, instead of looking at doing what he's doing and saying campus placement, I'll get a 20 lakh job, I'll get a 40 lakh job, if that person takes some interest and starts up something, a small business, a small entrepreneur, a small startup, if he does, along with himself, of course he'll get a job for himself, but he'll be able to employ another 4 more people. Now if you have got a youth of let's say 40 lakh youth, if 40 lakh youth were to all do one startup, now multiplied by a factor of 5, that many number of jobs will get created. So the youth bulge problem is being addressed in a very many number of ways by the country. This is one of them, but you need to constantly keep thinking about it. Increasing global profile, a target for foreign powers. Canada, of course, I've given again an example of Canada, but our profile in the world is becoming better and better, and we are trying to reach the pole position and very soon. And that is also going to be a security challenge for a rising India. And with that, I finish.